Are you looking for a new thrilling adventure? Action Flix is here for you. Action Flix is an arcade full of mini expansions for Outgunned, the cinematic role-playing game. It's a collection of ideas, mechanics, tips, and tools to help you set off on adventures in ever-changing and surprising contexts. Have you ever wished to go on an epic journey in a fantasy world? Or get into the action playing as an angel or an animated duck? Have you ever looked to the horizon and dreamed of riding into the Wild West or setting off on a mission among the stars? Have you ever wondered if you could survive a fight against cosmic horrors or robot terminators? Thanks to Action Flix, you'll be able to do all this and much more. This is a review of Action Flix Volume 2. Let's dive in. If you've seen my review of Action Flix Volume 1, then you'll know what to expect here. My opinions haven't really changed much as the format is the same, just different flicks. As such, this will be more like an overview, so let's take a look at the 10 new action flicks. Star Knights is a sci-fi action flick that allows you to go on great adventures in a galaxy far, far away, and yet surprisingly familiar, where evil empires strive to expand their power over defenseless planets, and only a handful of heroic rebels and knights of an ancient order dare stand against them. I also want to point out this blurb on the side here. Don't listen to what other people say. This is the right order in which to watch the Star Wars movie. 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. Although, honestly, we can just probably get rid of the last 3. In terms of new rules, we actually got something pretty big. We have power and darkness. Everything in the galaxy is ruled, permeated, and overflowing with a mysterious invisible force known to some as the power. It's pretty much the force, okay? Heroes in Star Knights are sensitive to the power, and they can learn to control it and even to perform wonders thanks to it, like moving items with the power of thought or subjugating the will of weaker minds. At the same time, they must take care to keep themselves in balance or they run the risk of falling prey to the temptations of darkness, thus turning into dangerous Shadow Knights. To go along with the Star Wars trope, we also have a new type of weapon, basically the Star Sword and the Double Star Sword, which can't actually deflect projectiles. Some of the new tropes that we have include Troubled Apprentice, Good Teacher, and Charming Mentor. The new role is the Star Knight. These are the protectors of the galaxy, or Knight Trainers. They get a bonus to focus, and they start with either a Star Sword or a Double Star Sword. They also start with the Power is with Me feat, and basically what this does is it swaps out adrenaline for balance, and you begin with 2 instead of 1. At character creation, you also learn the Push Power, plus a number of powers equal to your focus score. You may also forego taking 1 feat offered by your role to gain 3 more powers of your choice. Additionally, when advancing, you can also choose and gain a number of powers equal to your focus score in addition to the usual feat. People who can channel the power cannot rely on adrenaline or luck, but they have a different resource called balance. A hero can use balance much like they would use adrenaline or luck. However, a hero can only use their power so long as they have at least 1 balance. When a hero runs out of balance, they are too shaken to draw from the power. Basically what this is a new adrenaline for the good heroes. The opposite of that is going to be darkness for the Shadow Knights, and they use something called passion instead of balance. For the good heroes, we actually have a list of powers that only they can use. And this includes Deviate, Halt, Jump, Persuade, Pull, Push, Read, Recall, Soothe, and Throw. For the Shadow Knights, they have access to Control, Grip, Lightning, and Pain. Of course, enemies have upgrades that they can use in the form of feats, which will transform them into Shadow Knights and things like that. And there are special actions that the director can use that definitely reflect that. Also, I want to point out that we get the same character twice. Like, at the end of all of these action flicks, we get sample characters to use. And we actually get the same character twice. One that uses balance, so a good guy, and one that uses passion, so a Shadow Knight. Old Ones is a horror action flick inspired by the mysterious stories of H.P. Lovecraft, taking you through the uncomfortable days of a detective or honest citizen who is forced to deal with uncanny events and unfathomable creatures born of your worst nightmares. The big new rule involves madness, and some of the new items that you can get are forbidden, which means anytime you use them, you need to make a critical reaction roll in focus and cool. If you fail, then you basically gain 1 madness. Some of these items include a crystal sphere, a grimoire, Ouija board, star amulet, and a tarot deck. For new tropes, we have From the Sea, Esoteric Scholar, and Jolly Loon. The new role is the Nightmare Investigator. They get a bonus in nerves, and they start with a pistol. These are basically your private eyes, retired police, unemployed person, anybody who's going to go into the occult or investigate the occult. When playing Old Ones, worrying about your grit and physical health won't be enough. You must also be careful to hold onto your mental sanity in order to avoid falling prey to madness. Gaining madness is never a good thing. There are several ways to gain it, such as meeting a cosmic horror for the first time, or some enemy feats and special actions can put your mental sanity at risk and make you gain madness. Handling forbidden tomes like the ones I've discussed before can give you madness. Or, when one of your friends is left for dead or reaches 12 madness, you immediately gain 1 madness. Whenever you gain 1 madness, you permanently lose one of your grit boxes, starting with the one on the far right. And as if that wasn't enough, there's no way to remove madness. And once you've reached 12 madness, your mind crumbles and you're lost in an endless waking nightmare. Talk about rough. However, when you reach 4 madness, you gain 1 gift of madness, which kind of acts like a feat. So we have things like a third eye, a fury, whispers, tentacles, life, or cosmic horror. Wild West is a dusty action flick that takes you back to a harsher time, made up of ruthless manhunts and intense duels at noon. In these lands baked by the sun, you can trust no one, and only those who shoot first can hope to survive. When you play in Wild West, you're either a sheriff or an outlaw, someone with a good reputation or someone with a bad reputation. We actually have a new condition called Exhausted, so we get a -1 to all rolls that require focus and enduring effort. Additionally, unlike all other conditions, you can suffer the Exhausted condition more than once, and its effects actually stack. Some new tropes include Hero with No Name, Friendly Brute, and Right Hand of the Devil. The new role is called the Gunslinger. So these are basically like your cowboys, sheriffs, and bandits. They get a bonus to nerves, and they have a revolver, a knife, and a horse as their starting gear. The big new rule for this action flick is the quick draw. To have a quick draw duel, the hero and the challenger must assemble a pool of dice and secretly divide it into 3 smaller pools, each dedicated to one phase of the duel. The phases of the duel are stare off, draw, and shoot. Winning each phase will grant you a great advantage in the next. As such, it's crucial for you to choose carefully how to divide your dice pool in order to ensure victory. Your dice pool is always composed of 9 dice plus 1 die per each point you have in cool, dexterity, and shoot. During a quick draw duel, you can never spend adrenaline to add dice to your pool, so what you get is what you got. The challenger will roll a number of dice equal to their rating. So 12 dice is a hothead who knows how to hold a gun, 14 dice is a skilled gunslinger, 16 dice is a living legend, and 18 dice is the fastest gun in the West. When in a duel, there are a couple things to remember. First, you cannot make a free reroll. You cannot spend adrenaline, and you cannot use spotlights to gain an extreme success. That's kind of like cheating. The player who scores the higher success wins the current round. The one who scores lower loses. In case of a tie, the hero flips a coin. If the result is tails, the hero wins. If the result is heads, the challenger wins. So let's go over the 3 different phases. We have stare off. You stare straight into your challenger's eyes to scare them off and unsettle them. If you win, the challenger is rattled. They must discard all dice that land on a 1 during the draw phase before eventually making a reroll. If you lose, the challenger rattles you. You must discard all dice that land on a 1 during the draw phase before eventually making a reroll. In the draw phase, you pull out your gun with speed and precision. If you win, you draw first and you gain a free reroll for your shot phase. If you lose, you're too slow, and during the shot phase, you won't be able to make a free reroll. In the shot phase, you shoot a single bullet trying to shoot before you get shot. If you win, you defeat the challenger. You can choose whether to kill them or show mercy. If you lose, you fill in all your grit and suffer the broken condition. You are at the mercy of your challenger. I hope you've said your prayers. Dark Light is a supernatural action flick that puts you in the shoes of an angel sent from heaven to protect humanity, or of a demon straight out of the abyss sent to corrupt those who are pure of soul. You'll have to face your enemies or learn how to work with them in order to stop an impending catastrophe. Because we're dealing with angels and demons, we have 2 new terms, holy and unholy. Holy is basically anything that's associated with goodness and purity, and unholy is the opposite of that. We actually have 2 new plan Bs that reflect that as well, called blessing or blasphemy. Basically, what holy and unholy does is it gives your character an aura. So anybody with holy or unholy can detect each other. Basically, you can't hide from them, so good luck. For new tropes, we have Anguished Cynic, Too Sweet, and Grumpy Rebel. The new role is called the Emissary, and emissaries are sent by a higher power to bring a message, either good or bad, depending on their employer. So think of like Horsemen of the Apocalypse or Guardian Angels. They have a bonus in Smooth, and they get elegant clothes and a $1 item of choice. We have 2 overworldly feats that are of note, Celestial and Infernal. For Celestial, you are a holy creature and are surrounded by an aura of holy light that can usually only be perceived by angels and demons. You gain a +1 to all action rolls made to strike unholy creatures with your bare hands or melee weapons, and suffer -1 to all reaction rolls made to defend against the attacks of unholy creatures. As a quick action, you can use your powers to perform a small miracle. For example, you summon a beautifully crafted item of small size, inspire goodwill in others, emanate a warm and comforting light, soothe pain in someone who's suffering, heal a minor wound, or bring back to life a small creature such as a dove or a butterfly. For Infernal, you are an unholy creature and are surrounded by dark, unholy aura that can usually only be perceived by angels and demons. You gain +1 to all action rolls made to strike holy creatures with your bare hands or melee weapons, and suffer -1 to all reaction rolls made to defend against the attacks of holy creatures. As a quick action, you can use your power to unleash a small curse. For example, you summon a swarm of insects or vermin, incite negative emotions in others, unleash pesky mishaps, create light sensory illusions like annoying smells or noises, or make the weather worse. In a time of ancient gods where evil warlords and kings dominate over a land in turmoil, the desperate folk cry out for a group of heroes who will fight for their freedom. You are the answer to their pleas, a mighty hero forged in the heat of battle. One of the new rules for Mighty Swords is that, well, you're playing as a mighty hero, so they're going to be able to do things that a normal person wouldn't do. So basically, scale down your difficulty rolls. For example, in a basic roll, your mighty hero can climb a steep wall, avoid traps and snares, and bend metal bars with their bare hands. Things like that. Also, might is now replacing adrenaline, but they do the same thing. In terms of new weapons, we've actually got some that you would find in a, fantasy setting, like a short bow, heavy bow, crossbow, chakram, spear, a staff or a hammer, an axe, a sword, a shield, armor, and arrows with bolts. Some new tropes that we have include Honorable Savage, Old Code, and Warrior Prince or Princess. The new role is the Barbarian, which is exactly what it sounds like. They have a bonus in Brawn, and they start with 2 weapons of choice, or a weapon of choice, and a shield. District 77 is a crime drama action flick that drops you into the shoes of an officer or detective from District 77 in a large metropolitan city. One of the many heroes in uniform who would do anything to serve their community even put up with their colleagues. Basically, you're playing as a cop in this action flick, which means you can play as a young rookie or an old cop who's about a couple days away from retirement. If you decide to play as an old hero, what you will get right away is a reputation that represents the name, good or bad as it may be, that you have made for yourself through many years of service, as well as the additional feat too old for this. With too old for this, you can choose to automatically fail an action roll that requires physical effort. When you do this, mark an X near this feat. You can mark only one X at a time and will only be allowed to mark another after erasing the first. You can erase the X at any time to gain +1 and a free reroll in an action roll of any kind, thanks to the knowledge you have accumulated over your long years of honored service. We actually have some new gear, and some of these act more as non-lethal weapons, such as the taser gun and the baton. But we also have handcuffs, smoke bomb, and rubber bullets. For new tropes, we have Detective Nerd, By the Book, and Loose Cannon, and the new role is the Rookie, which is exactly what it sounds like. They get a bonus in Smooth, and they get a 1 item of choice as their starting gear. We also have access to Buddy Mode. Buddy Mode is a new game mode designed especially for groups of 3 players. As always, one of you will be the director, and the others will play as a pair of cops who must learn to set aside their differences in order to work together for the same mission. During a combat or chase in Buddy Mode, the 2 heroes can cooperate to make an additional action roll called the Buddy Action. When making a Buddy Action, the heroes assemble a single pool of dice using 1 skill each for either of them. With Buddy Mode, we also have Relationship, and with it, Relationship Issues. And there's a whole list of relationship issues that you can roll for randomly if you want to add a little drama to your game. After being extinct for several million years, dinosaurs are now making their reappearance on Earth. This dream come true for many paleontologists and enthusiasts is about to turn into a horrifying nightmare. Get ready to deal with the biggest, meanest lizards the world has seen since its very beginning. We have 2 different types of dinosaurs in this action flick. We have dinosaur enemies, so anything that you would actually fight against, and then we have big dinosaurs, which represent something much larger than your normal dinosaurs. Whenever you encounter big dinosaurs, you're basically running away from them, which means chase rules apply here. For new tropes, we have Animal Lover, Action Paleontologist, and Chaos Theorist, but we don't have a new role, which is kind of a letdown. Instead, we have Dinosaur Enemies, and they have a whole list of feats to use, such as Clever Lizard. The enemy is smart enough to open doors, to clumsily pull a lever, or to activate a mechanism of some sort. A hero who tries to use the Outsmart feat against this enemy always suffers -1. Or how about a Tiny Pack? When a hero fails to score at least a basic success during their reaction turn, one of the creatures from the Tiny Pack latches onto them. At the beginning of each action turn, heroes lose 1 grit for each creature latched onto them until they make a basic action roll to get free. And then we have some on-demand dinosaurs like the flock of Compsognathus, the group of Dilophosaurus, and the Velociraptor. I also have pterodactyls, stegosaurus, a pack of velociraptors, the Ankylosaurus, and the young Triceratops. Furious Wasteland is a post-apocalyptic action flick that throws you straight into a dangerous desert world that has been through the worst and barely made it out. Get ready for a grueling journey through a radioactive landscape of scrap and rubble, fighting against the new warlords who rule over a dying land. In Furious Wasteland, you don't use cash anymore. You have to trade everything that you have for any items that you want. When creating a hero from the Wasteland, you instead gain 1 useless item like a photo or a ring, an everyday item like a lighter or a pair of binoculars, or 1 common weapon or a piece of gear with a scrap feat. And scrap is the new tag for gear in this action flick. And what it allows you to do is to, piece scrap together to make new gear. Some of the new gear that we have to work with include a junk rifle, a circular saw, flamethrower, power armor, mechanical arm, and gasoline. For new tropes, we have Furious Fighter, Last Night, and Unwavering Optimist. And the new role is called the Dweller, which is a hero who travels the land, going from place to place and surviving. They get a bonus in focus and, unfortunately, they start with no gear. This probably would have been the best time to have at least had them start with an extra feat or something, but oh well. When the dead awake from their slumber and start walking the earth, the fate of humanity hangs by a blood-red thread that could snap at any moment. Get ready for an all-out war against hordes of brainless zombies and shambling corpses straight out of hell. Since we're talking about zombies here, it should be worth noting that, well, there are 3 types of zombies. We have slow zombies, we have fast zombies, and we have smart zombies. When you're facing off against hordes of zombies, well, there are 4 different ways that you can gain advantages. First, you can stick out your neck. You may add 1 lethal bullet to your death roulette to gain 1 adrenaline, which you must spend immediately. You can surpass the limit. You can add 2 lethal bullets to your death roulette to gain 1 spotlight, which you must spend immediately. You can shoulder the weight. During a timeout or camp, you may spend an action confiding in one of your friends, getting a weight off of your chest or allowing another hero to confide in you. The hero making the confession loses 1 lethal bullet, which gets taken on by the listener. Or you can make the ultimate sacrifice. You may save a friend who has failed their role on the death roulette by sacrificing yourself. The death of a true hero. Some new tropes that we have to play around with include Houseware's Clerk, Next Door Hero, and Final Girl. You can actually play as a zombie hero using this action flick. With it, you are immune to all conditions and the bad box on your grit track becomes a horror box. When you fill in your horror box because of an enemy or another physical danger, you can choose to tap into a rush of brutality to make an extra action roll or to gain 1 adrenaline. If you do so, the rush also causes you to lose a limb or another body part. You can reattach any lost piece by using one of your actions during a timeout or camp, provided that you have a spare. For any normal heroes out there, if they get bitten by a zombie, they immediately become hurt. At the beginning of each new scene or session after that, the director flips a coin to determine what happens to the hero. If the result is heads, the hero breaks out in a cold sweat, showing the first symptoms and becomes broken. During the next timeout or camp, the hero falls into a state of suspended animation and they wake up as undead at the end of the scene. And then we have the ugly zombie optional rule. And basically, this lowers your smooth or flirt if you're a zombie. And I would actually make a case to not use the optional rule. What better way to add drama than a zombie who has to hide who they are? Kind of like in iZombie. In terms of zombies as enemies, there's a couple things that we need to make note. Zombies have no enemy feats, unless they are either fast or smart. And zombies have up to 4 horror boxes. That allows them to activate horror actions. There is an optional bite rule, so basically at the end of combat against a zombie, all heroes who have lost at least 3 grit must roll 2 dice. Anyone who scores a double 1 was bitten. If more than 1 hero was bitten, they must all roll a die, and only the hero who rolls the lowest is actually infected. The others only have superficial wounds. And I actually like this rule better than the previous infected rule. And surprisingly enough, we have some on-demand zombies, such as the decomposing zombie, the group of battered zombies, the beefy zombie, zombie animals, zombie mob, zombie hunters, smart zombie, zombie soldiers, zombie armada, and the zombie zero. Quack Tales is an action flick for tales of daring do, bad, and good luck, where every day we're out there making a tune filled with great adventures around the world. Set off to search for great treasures, protect the precious vault, solve a mystery, or rewrite history with your cartoony friends. Oh boy. Yep, this is a cartoon-based action flick. Which, I guess it is unique. Since you're a cartoon, well, you really don't get hurt very often. Well, rather you do, but you don't really suffer conditions for that long. And since you're a cartoon, you never run the risk of being left for dead because of losing grit. So you never need to take a spin on the death roulette. In terms of tropes, we have Stingy Uncle, Three's Company, Surly Sailor, Brilliant Inventor, and Lucky Dandy. And we also have a ton of new feats, such as Boing. Once per session, when you lose grit due to a melee attack by an enemy, you can say that your body gets momentarily warped before bouncing back to its original form. If you do this, the enemy is hit with the backlash and loses 1 grit. Or you can have a bottomless bag. Or you can be clumsy. Once per session, you can choose to gain an automatic success in an absolutely clumsy, blundering way instead of rolling the dice. In exchange for this, you must choose another hero who will suffer an automatic failure because of your awkwardness. Apologize to them. The so-called real world, the one where flesh and blood people live, is not the only option. Parallel to the one we know, there is a virtual reality. One made of 2D levels, gorillas throwing barrels, and dense pixel jungles that hide treasures beyond imagination, and even the occasional Easter egg. If you wish, you can dive into virtual reality thanks to a cutting-edge headset and a handful of cables. You just need to press a button and you'll be launched online, ready to live amazing digital adventures while wearing your very own avatar. But you need to be careful because now and then, someone gets sucked online against their will, ends up trapped in an old, faulty video game, or becomes cursed for no real reason. When this happens, it's best if you just start playing, as completing the game will be your only way out. And around here, game overs are just around the corner. Thanks to Insert Coin, you can play as a hero who projects their virtual avatar online, or who ends up trapped in an extremely realistic video game. Will you find a way to gain the upper hand over your opponents before your lives run out? There are two game modes when playing Insert Coin, Stuck Online and In and Out. For Stuck Online, heroes are everyday people who find themselves loaded into a computer, an old arcade game, or a cursed video game. In this virtual world, the heroes appear as a digital version of themselves, or they take on the appearance of an avatar that is different from themselves. Once online, the heroes have to complete the game in order to get out, and in the event of a game over, they are trapped forever. Usually, when playing this mode, the heroes only need to fill in one virtual hero sheet to represent their avatar or online self. For In and Out, the heroes live in a near future where technology allows them to switch in and out of an online world, thanks to cutting-edge headsets and suits. In order to complete their mission, the heroes need to get the best out of their resources in both worlds, real and virtual. When playing this mode, the heroes need to fill in two sheets, one for themselves and one for their avatars. We actually have some new virtual feats, but there's one that I'm going to point out here called One Up, which I think is really cool. When you're about to lose a life, you can choose to not lose it instead, healing from all conditions and recovering all grit on the spot. If you do, erase this feat from your sheet. Talk about a saving grace. We also have things like Glitch, Heavy Machine Gun, Limit Break, Motherload, and Power Up. We have a new special role called the NPC. Who said that heroes are always the main characters of the story? NPCs are lovely virtual individuals who are constantly in the background, and they almost never get a chance to shine. This is pretty much like Free Guy here. You get 2 attribute points of your choice and 2 pieces of gear of your choice. If you're playing the Stuck Online version of Insert Coin, then there are a couple rules to think about. First, we don't have a death roulette. Instead, we have 3 lives. And once you run out of all of those lives and you die again, it's over. But we actually do have some virtual gear, which is pretty cool, like an extra life, which costs a lot of money, by the way, which allows you to use the one-up feat. We have a super mushroom, we get small chests, flash bombs, skin, an old map, red shoes, and a superstar. So for the next 3 turns, you cannot lose grit or suffer conditions. In and Out kind of gets the shaft here, but then again, you are playing as 2 separate characters, one in the virtual world and one in the real world. All in all, this is another really good way to be able to mix and match different genres. This is Ready Player One inspired. You can literally do anything in the virtual world, so why not go all out? This does for Action Flicks Volume 2 what Everything at Once did for Action Flicks Volume 1. But I also like that it brings its own uniqueness to the table. And that's actually about it for this overview of Action Flicks Volume 2. My opinions are the same from Action Flicks Volume 1. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy this unless you plan on utilizing most of the content here. Again, this is the kind of game that does very well on a shorter style campaign. But Everything All at Once from Volume 1 and Insert Coin from Volume 2 really do a lot to extend the campaign length. If you've always wanted to do some multiversal shenanigans or Wreck-It Ralph or Free Guy or Ready Player One virtual wackiness, then definitely go for Volume 1 and Volume 2 and mix and match and just have fun with it. Is Volume 2 better than Volume 1? Well, that actually depends upon your tastes. Again, there are some action flicks here that weigh a little bit more heavily than others. And I mean, they both have the same amount of content, they just have different genres. So whichever genre or genres you're most interested in is probably the one that's going to be better fit for you. Again, I would just get the PDFs of both of them and mix and match, and now you've got something pretty good to bring to the table. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Give this video a huge thumbs up to support the series, and I will see you guys in the next video.